Okay, 5 p.m. So good evening and good morning again, and thank you all for joining us for the third and the last Partnership Online Learning session for 2018. And thank you for those of you that send us topics that they would like to learn more about in the next year's sessions. And we'll do the best to include your requests and meet your needs. And I would like also to thank all the lay and professionals that wanted to present today. We got so many requests, and this is amazing, and we would like to thank you for that. And we promise that we'll give all the partnerships the opportunity to present. We know that we can learn from all the partnerships, so please don't be disappointed. We'll do it next year. And as previously, we are with open camera, as you can see, and we are able to see each other, but please turn off your mic. We've tried to open the microphone the last session and it didn't work too well. My name is Dr. Avito Chayon, and I'm Director of Contact Development and the Cross-Partnership Initiatives for the Partnership Unit, and I'm pleased to facilitate this session too. Just a short reminder for the new participants, and we do have some new participants, so welcome. The first session focused on expanding circles of people that are involved in a partnership and raising the awareness of partnership. The second session focused on ways and examples to create long-term engagement, generate, sustain, and grow passion and commitment to participants, to partnership existing participants. And this session will focus on one of the more challenging age group to engage for most of the partnerships, the young adults, which is a very important age group for our partnership because they are our emerging leadership. So we will hear from 3 partnerships about the challenges and how they are facing them. And I would like to thank the 3 amazing partnerships that will present today in the following order. Sachar and Palm Beach, Be'er Sheva Bnei Shimon Montreal, and Hadera Iron Southeast US Consortium. So thank you. A few words about the structure of this session. Each partnership will have 15 minutes that will be divided as follows: 5 minutes to present the topic and 10 minutes for question and answers. And you will be able to write your questions in a chat box, and the professional team will collect the questions. And after the presentation, they will answer you online. And you are more than welcome to write your questions during the presentation. Following each session, the materials and the contact information of the presenters will be uploaded to our Knowledge Center on our website. And so each participant will be able to carry on communicating with the program leaders, and you will be able to ask more questions in a later stage on. In addition, questions that we don't get to answer due to the time limit, they will be collected and uploaded also together with the answers to the Knowledge Center. And as you already know, we are recording the session and we'll upload the video for a later reference too. And you are more than welcome to watch the last session's video that are already in the Knowledge Center. And just for those of you that haven't got the chance to see our Knowledge Center, do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is our Knowledge Center on our website, and you can see that here we have the online learning session. All the videos are here, all the materials are here, so you're welcome to watch. Okay, so before we'll start, I would like to introduce Gil Klemper to instruct us on a few small technical points that will enable us to have a smooth session. Gil, bevakasha.
Hello, everyone. Like Ravit said, I think the most important part that I want to share with you is your option to ask questions during the session. Each time we have presenters speaking, we want to keep it flowing and not interrupt in the middle. So we created a way to ask questions and get answers, which is using the chat box. If you take your mouse hovering the screen, you'll see at the bottom you'll see the toolbar, and just on the right of the share button, the big green button, there's a chat. And clicking the chat, you'll see it open, there's a window pops up, and you can send a message. Just make sure it should, on default it sends to everyone, but make sure it does. So everyone can see your question, and anyone who presents can reply to it, and we can collect it and add it to the session minutes at the end. Anyone who has any problem seeing it, let me know now. But it should be very easy. Just click in the chat box and you're ready to ask your question. I'll try to put people on mute as long as they're not talking, but we're so many people. So please also help me and unmute yourself when you need to talk, and mute yourself when you're just listening and enjoying this session. Let's enjoy a technical problems-free session.
Thank you, Gil. Okay, so I have the honor and the pleasure to invite Lori Klinkhofer, our co-chair Partnership Committee and P2G Global Council, to formally open the session. Lori, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Ravit. And hello, everybody. Whatever time zone you're in, afternoon, morning, it's amazing and wonderful to know that we have so many participants on this important call, our third session. Each one builds, I believe, to the next session. And today, as we focus on engaging young adults, I think we're even digging deeper into the sustainability of all the wonderful things that we do in partnerships, taking the passion and moving it down to the next generation. And that's what sustainability is all about, moving the needle forward, creating the buzz among more people. And that is just not going to happen if we don't find a meaningful place and a way to engage people of the younger generation. I recently read an article that millennials no longer will buy cans of tuna fish, that they are in a place of I don't know, realization that my kids say they don't own a can opener. I think they expect the sandwich to be presented to them at their door with nothing else. So what we're doing here today is hearing about how the best way to reach these young adults on their playing field in a way that they can feel comfortable and excited about the incredible opportunities we have connecting with each other, Israelis and non-Israelis, through the partnership platform. So with that, I want to turn it over to our three wonderful partnership presenters so that we can learn some facts on the ground of programs that have been truly tested and have seen successes. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you. Okay, so we are starting with the first partnership, Tzachar Palm Beach, and I have the pleasure to invite Lior Salmon, our P2G director, and Lindsay Hirsch, director leadership development of the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach. And we'll start with Lindsay. Bevakasha, the stage is yours.
Hi, good morning and thank you. It's really an honor to be presenting today, and I want to commend you for creating this platform for everyone to learn from. So let me jump in. I know we have limited time together. Palm Beach decided to start this program almost 10 years ago. January will be 10 years since the creation of the Emerging Leadership Program. Now, Palm Beach, for those of you who have a little bit of an understanding, has for many years been known as a retirement community. People leave where they grew up, raise their families, and they move to Palm Beach. So what we realize is that's really not the case. It wasn't the case 10 years ago, and it's 100% not the case today. So how do we ensure that we are creating a future pipeline of leaders? We want to make sure that we are educating them, that they are passionate, and that they feel invested in the community where they're making a choice to live. It's not something that they have to do. They can choose anywhere in this country, especially with remote access, with Zoom meetings, right? People have a choice about where they live today, much like having groceries delivered to their door. So what do we want to do to ensure that they want to engage with us? So we created this program that focuses, it's really a three-pronged system. One is Jewish content and text, right? If we are training our Jewish leaders, we want to make sure that they have a foundation to go off of, and that at least at some level, because we all practice different ways and we experiment with our Judaism, and all of us involve and engage differently, we want to make sure that our leaders at least have the same foundation to move forward together. The second area is true leadership development. These individuals are anywhere from 28 to 38. Some of them have had no leadership experience, and some of them have had minimal, and some have had extensive. But again, we want to level the playing field so that as they come into our organizations, they have training that they can all be uniform with. How to write an appropriate agenda, right? Some of the basics that people take for granted. The third is really getting to know them on their personal journey, why they want to be in the room, and developing where they want to be in the future. If you ask some of these individuals, where do you want to be in 10 years? They still can't answer you. But if we say, what is of interest to you, we can then help them along that continuum and help provide them the guidance they need to be leaders. So ELP started 10 years ago, and the beauty of it, in my opinion, is that the curriculum is always changing, right? We are working with what life stage they are in. It's not a matter of we consider them millennials or we consider them Xennials. We are ensuring that the group, the current cohort at the time, we're working with that life stage. So there's core curriculum, of course, the Jewish history of Palm Beach, the history between Palm Beach and Sachar as one of the founding partnership regions, and what does that mean as a young leader. We also want to ensure that the curriculum is tailored to each of the participants. So we have open discussion about what do they need, what do they want, how do we move forward. We give them access to major philanthropists in the community. We introduce them to key lay leaders, and we give them opportunities to learn with each other, building a cohort, as well as to experiment and to say what's not working and to dream really big. To say to them, what is that idea that you have that doesn't exist? And I'll give you an example. One of our cohort 1 members, his name was Andrew Commodore, he said, I believe that this one street in Palm Beach 10 years from now is going to house the Jewish Community Center, 2 synagogues, and the Jewish Day School. And everyone looked at him 10 years ago and said, Andrew, you might not be right. And do you want to know something? The man was right. Today, on one street, we have the Jewish Day School, the JCC, a Reformed synagogue, and a conservative synagogue. So a lot of these individuals are innovative thinkers. So that was in 2009. Today, we're 10 years out. I just had 68 applications for 20 spots. So the program is really thriving. The alumni are an amazing group of individuals. There's 120 alumni who've gone through the program. And now we are at a place where we have triple the amount of people applying than we have seats. So in 2013, ELP Israel was created, and Lior is going to talk about that. But what I want to just touch base on is that they love interacting with their peers in Israel. It really is something so unique and so special. In 2015, ELP Israel came to us for the very first ever Mifgash. In 2017, we then traveled to Israel to interact with our peers in their world, right? Because we know that American Jewry and Jewry in Israel is different. So that was really an amazing experience. And ELP Israel just came back. So now Lior and I are planning what's next. But every time they're together, these two groups are energized and engaged. And it's really, there's a little bit, I'm going to come off cheesy, right? Everybody's ready for that? It's magical. There's a little bit of magic about it. And it's wonderful and exciting. And you see the ELPers from Israel and America just come alive. And it's really remarkable. So what are we doing now? We are So I'm looking to rewrite some of our curriculum, knowing that what we did 10 years ago isn't necessarily relevant to what we're doing today. I'm really starting to tie in things that are different, right? 10 years ago, one of my first alumni is now in his 50s. So someone who's in his 50s, different life stage than someone who we just accepted who's 28. So how do we make sure the curriculum's fresh? We try new things. So now I'm working on a curriculum that has some Jewish values-based learning and education involved that ties in directly to, let's say we'll use philanthropy and philanthropic giving. So we're going to take the value, for example, of generosity, which seems, that like it makes sense, and we're gonna weave it throughout the curriculum. So the ELPers are going to give a Devar Torah. They're going to stand up and talk about the weekly parashah and what it means to be a leader and how that ties in. Then we're going to talk about philanthropic giving and what does that mean and why should they do it, and not ask them for money, but understand the importance of it. And then we're going to tie this value of generosity throughout the entire session. And at the end, we're going to tie it back to Jewish text that ties to generosity, right? Direct biblical passages that tie to generosity. It's not just the value of generosity, but it's really how do you make this program relevant and applicable so that it hits different ELPers at different times. Someone might not connect with generosity, but someone could understand the logic of you have to give X number of dollars in order for Y to happen. So we want to make sure that we're able to connect with each of these individuals. Can someone give me a time check? I'm sorry. I get so passionate about ELP that I forget the time.
Thank you.
I think I'll say a few words then about ours, because I think we've gone past the 5 or 6 minutes that we had. So my name's Lior Solomon. I'm the Partnership Director at Tzachar Palm Beach, which is Tzfat, Chatzor, and Rosh Pina with Palm Beach in Florida. So our program obviously was a bit of a spin-off from the ELP program in Palm Beach. We had 2 main issues that we were looking at. One being that our 3 municipalities have minimal collaboration between each other. So the program, which obviously is geared towards young professionals, aimed to create an intra-regional group of leaders that could help develop the region. And the other idea was to keep young professionals in the region by having them be involved in the community and taking major roles within in our region. So we managed to bring a good group of people together for our first cohort. Again, based on the many programs we've been running, partnerships have been around for 23 years now. The program focused on connecting the group to their Jewish roots, the local region, and obviously the global Jewish community, with Palm Beach being our partners. And the major focus was also social responsibility. So how could these participants, these leaders, work within the community to identify areas that needed to be developed? And one of our major successes was with our first cohort. So our program is a little longer. It's a 3-year program at the moment. So we've had 2 cohorts. Our first cohort identified that English was a major issue, or the lack of English skills and speaking skills in our region. And they developed an English enhancement program, which now has approximately 100 children from grades 5 to 6. And we're about to open 2 groups of adults as well. So that was something that was their initiative, and we've helped develop. I just wanted to say one more thing that Lindsay added, and that we really are creating a group of peers who are engaged all the time together, speaking about what's good for their communities and how the region can be developed here, and how they can help their fellows in Palm Beach as well. And that's really the beauty of the program. I see there's a few questions, so I'm gonna go over to some of the questions because we have a few minutes left. The curriculum. Okay, Lindsay, do you want to speak a little bit about the curriculum on your side?
Sure. So I'm actually reformatting this cohort's curriculum, so I would be happy to share it. There's a couple things. One, some of the curriculum is core, so that won't change. Some of the curriculum will change. And sometimes we do a hard stop. So in the midst of an ELP cohort, if I see that there's a point where the class isn't picking up on something immediately, I'll do a hard stop and I'll change the curriculum and I will rewrite it. So I will happily send what I have prior to starting this cohort, but know that in 16 months, I can send the finished product as well, so that everyone can see also the differentiation between what was predetermined and what ended up happening, so that we're really addressing the needs of the group. I'm happy to send that curriculum. That's not a problem.
So in our region, it's slightly different. We sort of sat with a number of leaders in the that already exist here and that are already in major roles here, as well as looking at different programs that exist throughout Israel, and sort of try to get a better understanding of what are the major topics and issues that are being focused on in those programs. And then we sort of adapted it towards our region to suit our needs here. So a lot of the curriculum was built by that. I'm more than happy as well to send our curriculum. We are now trying to build a more cohesive program where we're working together, and we will have joint meetings. So that will change for the next group, the upcoming groups.
Do you see the question about how you engage your graduates?
Yeah. So Lior, do you want me to chime in first?
Go for it.
So we have 120 graduates. We recognize that 120 individuals are not going to be engaged in everything all the time. We currently have 27 federation committees. We have an ELP graduate on every single committee that the federation has. We also have a graduate on over half of the synagogue board of directors, and graduates on every single partner agency. So JFCS, Morse Life, the Jewish Day School. Now there's a group that we know that just drop off. That's okay. That's reasonable to us. A huge part of my portfolio is also engaging these alumni. So I work very intentionally about setting up one-on-one meetings and making sure that I'm not just sending out an email blast, right? That's not engagement. Engagement is making sure that we are connecting appropriately, that we're finding the right avenue for these individuals in our community. If we have 50-year-olds and 28-year-olds, it's not the same path. So sometimes we readjust. If someone's on a path to be chair of the board of directors and halfway through that path, they are not as engaged as they would like to be or as we would like to be, then we change their path, and that's okay, right? So it's an ongoing project. I don't have the secret sauce. I do know that year to date, every year we have an alumni retreat, and between last year's retreat and this year's retreat, we had an 83% increase in participation. So the work that we're doing, I believe, is turning out well, and there's always room for improvement. And my best advice about this whole thing is that we have to keep it fresh and excited, and keep their needs in mind. It's not just about our needs, it's also about theirs, and making sure we find the right shidduch for everybody.
And there is another question: how do you develop the curriculum?
So I develop the curriculum. I work off what has worked in the past and what I see as deficiencies. And so I change it. I work with the M Squared Institute. I work with local lay leadership. I always work in tandem with my lay leaders. And I work off of what worked last time and what didn't. And so if something didn't work well, then I don't want to repeat that. I want to learn from that. If something was out of this world, then we want to make sure we move forward. A very large group of those who interviewed for this incoming cohort said to me, we want to go to Israel. We heard you led a mission to Israel. And I said, we did. So I think that's definitely on the books as well. I think that that was the first time in 10 years we ever had a mission to Israel. And now it needs to be a more regular mission. It can't just be every 10 years.
Yeah. Thank you.
I just want to say about the engagement of the graduates. We have a rotating system where 3 graduates sit on our steering committee, the partnership steering committee, and are heavily involved in all that we do. And every couple of years, there's a change of who sits on the committee. There are also, we just had municipal elections here in October, and we had representatives on each 3 municipalities who were involved in the elections as well. So they're very active in the community, and a lot of it credited to the program that we're running here. They credit it to the program. We're not crediting, obviously, but so we are very involved with that. And the partnership's really the only main organisation here connecting the entire region and all 3 of the municipalities together.
Okay, thank you, Lior and Lindsay. Thank you very much. And we're right about the time to move forward to our second partnership. So I have the pleasure to invite Daphne Karen Lapidot, our P2G Director, and Laurie Bloomer, Community Engagement Associate, Federation CJA, Generation Montreal. The stage is yours. Bevakasha, we'll start with Daphne.
Okay, so hi, good morning, and good afternoon to everybody. As I said, my name is Daphne, Partnership Director here in Be'er Sheva. We'll try to keep it as quick as we can and as sharp as we can so we have enough time for questions. But as Lavita introduced at the beginning, I'd be happy to answer everything after the session. And please feel free to contact me or Laurie and Ksenia on our Montreal side. So around 2 years ago, we sat around the table and started thinking about how do we engage our young adult community in a better way, because we had beautiful programming and not as much as participation registration as much as we wanted, mainly on the Montreal side, but not just. I mean, Montreal and Be'er Sheva, Bnei Shimon as well. And what we came up with was a young adult leadership summit in the fall of 2017, so a bit over a year ago. We sent 10 entrepreneurs, business owners, and very influential, around 30-year-olds to Montreal. So 10 of them went to Montreal to meet 9 peers in Montreal. They spent a few days together and a very intense weekend, sort of like a mini hackathon, where they were asked to sit together and try to come up with programs that are relevant to them. If to continue what was said before, what is of interest of you to you was one of our main questions, and focusing on their needs, because again, we wanted to be and still want to be as relevant as we can and to answer the needs of both our communities. So that was the main question. What ended up happening was, again, a bit magical. We're all very schmaltzy today, but that's okay. We love what we do. So 3 beautiful programs and projects came together with that weekend. 2 were very specific, but one actually stood out. It was our LGBTQ mission. And I'll pass on the mic to Ksenia and to Laurie on our Montreal side to explain a little bit about that. But that's one of the things that we wanted to focus on. And again, just to understand that this was a process. We started with asking our community, and it took about a year to get everybody on board. And then this was one of 3 projects that came out of that beautiful delegation. And let's hear a little bit about that. So Laurie, the stage is yours.
So hi everyone, once again, I'm Laurie and I work for the Gen MTL department as a community engagement associate. So the beauty behind all of this was that the Be'er Sheva community expressed the need to create an LGBTQ program, whereas in the Montreal community, the LGBTQ community was very untouched. It was something that as a department, we haven't really dove into yet and explored, and we really wanted to become more inclusive. So we took this as an opportunity to really become that way. And the beauty also was that we were provided a separate grant from the government to hire a queer individual to come into our department and to create programs and events and planning all around the queer community, which really worked at the perfect time, because we had the Beersheba delegation come to Montreal. Hannah, who was the gender neutral intern, was able to implement and create this incredible program, all focusing on this initiative. So we brought in 8 delegates who were all part of the queer community, but weren't necessarily able to identify themselves as being both Jewish and queer. It was still separate on the spectrum, and that was an identity issue for them. Whereas the Israelis who came in were so confidently able to just say that they were queer individuals who were also Jewish. So throughout the week, we were able to bring them both together through multiple different events and activities, whether it was a Pride challah bake, or a sushi Shabbat dinner, or a Havdalah. There were multiple different events that really focused on allowing the Montrealers to realize that a federation and a Jewish building can bring in events that focus and are relatable to their needs, which is something that we haven't really done before in the past. And it was also very important because the Montreal community were able to look at the Beersheba community and see that we have all the potential to get to where they are. It might just be a slow and steady process in that case. Through this, we also asked the community what they wanted, what the queer community wanted, because that was something that has never been done before. We never really reached out specifically to them and tailored a curriculum or event specifically to their interests. And what we realized was that they were afraid to express what they were interested in because they didn't feel like there was a belonging for them within the community. So moving forward after that initiative existed, which was truthfully so successful in every way, because we were able to bring in 8 Montreal individuals who were not friends, who knew that they existed through social media, but never actually spoke to each other in person, which was really interesting. And we put them in a room together, and they all became friends to the point where they hang out on weekends, they do events with each other. Now they have their own Shabbat dinners. It's not run as a Gen MTL Federation event yet, which is very much okay, because we won in the sense that we are building a small community one by one, and they're doing it on their own, to the point that when we do, and we will, because for 2019, we have a lot of plans and events that we would love to do, but for now they're building it. And if this program and if this initiative didn't exist back in August, I don't think we would be able to sit here right now and confidently say that we accomplished something and that we're building something that was non-existent. So that was really like a kol hakavod moment, I think, for everyone on both ends. We were planning to do a reverse mifgash, so to have the Montreal delegates go to Beersheba in 2019 for the Pride Parade and to experience what life as a Beersheba queer individual would be there. What we realized was that it's not the right timing. We still have a lot to build within our community before I think we could bring 8 delegates to Beersheba to really learn more about the Israel queer community. That's something that we plan to do in 2020 once we really feel confident and established, and once the Montreal queers really have a stronger identity and realization that they could be both queer and Jewish, and that there is a sense of belonging within this building and within the events and the initiatives that we create. We also want to know what the Montrealers want, and we're kind of going about this as a grassroots, as myself and Ksenia said, initiative where it's not top down, where we're not going to be the ones who say they're going to do this, they're going to do that, and yada, yada, yada. It's so important that for a community like this, which already feels like a minority and is so sensitive, that they really have a voice as to what they want to see within the community moving forward. So for 2019, I've created a queer committee, which I will be running of 4 fantastic individuals who are so ecstatic and thrilled that this is finally on board and coming to be. And really, we hope that by next June, we could have a strong foundation and community of individuals who will feel prepared and ready to do a return mifgash for 2020.
I'm just going to say, so my name is Ksenia, and I'm the program coordinator for Israel and Overseas at Federation. So whatever we do through the partnership on the Montreal side goes through me. And I want to say that when Daphne and I created the Young Adult Summit back in 2017, and this was pitched, we thought, yes, we got it. This is what people want. This is an example. We'll create this mission. It'll be successful. It'll be great. But what ended up happening is that it didn't just spark a mission, but it actually sparked a bilateral connection, where instead of just having these 2 mifgash touch points in 2 different calendar years, it started a movement of self-inquiry and discovery on both sides, on the Israeli side and on the Montreal side. And I think for me, that far surpassed the expectations and the hopes I would have had of it, even though now we're at a point where, okay, we have to postpone the second part. And at first it was like, oh, is this a failure? But when we review it at the strategic level, our committee and the professionals, our like leaders and the professionals, we all said no, because our goal wasn't to send people to Montreal and people to Israel. Our goal was to spark a process of connection between queer identity and Judaism and Israelis and Montrealers. And if we did that, which, as Lori said, is definitely what's happening, then that was a success of the partnership. So that's
okay. So we have 2 more minutes. I'm getting WhatsApp, anxious WhatsApps. What I want to say to conclude, because we had a few questions going on WhatsApp, so I'll answer them all really quickly. One was about the post mifgash programming. So we have, between the 2 delegations, we have 3 online mifgashim. So led by the delegates and planning for the next delegation as well. So that was one of our post programming steps. Another thing, again, I think this is it's an example of a community, but you could copy paste it to anything that you do. I think the going and listening to your community needs, to your community's needs, plus I think that there's a lot of co-learning on both sides. And if we're talking about LGBTQ activism and community activism in Be'er Sheva, that is very, very
active.
Sorry?
Active.
Again, so this is something that the community in Montreal learned and picked up on. And I want to say that, the very strong institute, Federation took this with both hands and was very, very flexible in how do we answer this challenge. So again, it was an example of a community, but just the idea that learning from each other and being very flexible in implementing was one of our main things that led us. Again, I think our time's up. Ravit, if there's anything else we'd love to say more, but.
Thank you very much. I see all the questions here, and all of the people, all the participants want the materials. We will upload everything to the Knowledge Center. Don't worry, you'll have opportunity to contact the presenters and ask more questions later on. And I can say just that this example, I think we were exposed to the tremendous power and the opportunities that we have in the people-to-people connection within the framework of the partnership platform. How together they understood that they need to map the needs of the specific age group, and they're using the partnership platform to create various of activities, and of course also the understanding that we need a pre and post activities and programs. This is a huge need for all the partnerships. So thank you very much for your presentation. And we are right about to our last but not least partnership, Hadera Iron Southeast Youth Consortium. And I would like to invite Maya Shohan, P2G Director, and Jill Abel, P2G Coordinator, Jewish Federation of Jacksonville. And we'll start with Jill. Jill, the stage is yours. Where are you?
Yes, I'm right here.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jill Abel, and I am the U.S. Domestic Consortium Coordinator for the Hadera Aron Partnership. From what I can tell, we're different from the other ones who have presented today because we are indeed a large consortium. We are 10 Southeast communities paired with Hadera Aron. So as we attempted over the course of time to find a program that would meet the needs of 11 different communities, our 10 Southeast and our 1 Israel, to address young leadership. It was definitely an evolution process that took time and and from both Americans and the Israelis. We're supposed to talk about our challenges. Our challenges were fourfold. We had 4 major challenges we had to meet. The first was to meet the needs of our consortium. As I said, we're 11 communities. So we needed to find a program that would meet the needs and the desires of 11 communities. And our communities, well, most of our communities are very different. We range in community size in the Southeast from communities of 1,500 Jews to 15,000 Jews. So each of our communities has different needs and different impacts that we have the potential to make in those communities. So partnership-wide, the challenge for us in finding the best program was that all of our other programs in the past had addressed needs with professionals. We had done programs with educators, firefighters, artists, but we never just addressed the needs of this particular age group. In this age group, we have educators and firefighters, and we have artists. But we wanted to bring in this young leadership demographic. So as a partnership, we challenged ourselves to find something that would appeal to this specific age. In terms of our communities in the U.S., we felt strongly that this young leadership program needed to engage the participants within their own communities, but we also needed to get these participants engaged with Israel. We have learned through our programming that when our participants engage with Israelis and make those connections, those people-to-people connections with Israelis, our programs stand the test of time and are incredibly successful. So we sought to gather the young leaders from our individual communities, whether they had just returned from college and graduate school or they had married and settled into these communities. We wanted to find them and get them involved in the federation system, and we wanted to get them engaged with Israelis in Israel. And for the Israelis, the challenge that we heard from them was that they wanted the Israelis, the Israeli directors wanted the Israeli participants to understand this whole concept of world Jewry. Not that all, because obviously all Jews don't live in Israel. They wanted to expose them to what Jewish life was like outside of Israel and how do they fit into the whole picture of the Jewish world. So those were our 4 main challenges as we sought to find a program that would meet the needs of our consortium. Maya will talk a little bit about how we went about building the program.
Yes, so what we did in order to build this program is we studied some existing programs, both in the partnership world, as we heard before, there are several, and in general, like program Zug, programs that are out there. And but we decided to develop one that will be specifically for us. The first company that we took was Hamidrasha from Oranim School. And we asked them, the criteria we gave them is to create something that is both serious but light, flexible, uses advanced communication technology, and that it should be in 2 languages, both in Hebrew and in English. Once we located the facilitator that can give us all this, we focused on the program itself. We wanted it to be based on text, on Jewish heritage, and speak about the Jewish identity and the responsibility for the existence of the Jewish world on a personal, communal, and global level. We built the concept of a seminar, of a joint seminar. So we wanted it to be a long-term connection, meaning that the participants will have a session every month. Partners, both Israeli and Americans, will speak every month about the session, but we did want them to meet at the end and use what they learned throughout the 6 months of the program. Our first thought was for them to meet in Israel, but then we learned that it is much harder to recruit, especially the American cohort, to bring them to Israel, and we didn't get enough people. While we discussed the reasons, we saw both money reason and, of course, availability, because we are speaking about families in their early career age that couldn't take this huge time off. So we changed the idea for us to meet in the States. We have 10 US communities, so we chose every time a different community who wanted to host. And we labeled the seminar as a retreat in order to be appealing to this age group. So it is something that is fun, a lot of drinks involving, but also lessons that are very serious, discussing and summarizing the 6 months of learning. It's important for us to say that we had 2 Israeli volunteers who took charge over this program. They accompanied the entire process, and they helped us to recruit on the Israeli side, and also traveled with us to the States to bring the Israeli aspects to the program. And when we built the seminar, we used the participants. We consider that one of the goals is to build a leader. So how do we bring the participants into the planning process? What other ways do we have to foster peer leadership? We wanted to use this group to take an active part in this program. You can show them now, Ravit, the slide of how we advertised the program. Can you share it?
Yes. Do you see my screen?
This is the brochure. By the way, we found out in most of our programs that they work better when we have a brochure that gives each and every one of our programs a much more serious look, and contains all the information about the program. Here you can see Leadership Together. It's a partner, it's a Chevruta program, and it gives all the necessary details about what actually are we doing, the concept of being a partner between Israel and America, how it's being done. Every 3 weeks, we receive a new online module to work through with your partner and have a conversation about, or FaceTime, whatever app you want to use. And on the other side of the brochure, you see us advertising. This year will be the 3rd cohort. We had two cohorts that met in the States, but now we are able finally to have the 3rd one in Israel, because we recruited enough people from the last 2 cohorts and this 3rd new one to host it in Israel. Jill, do you want to summarize?
Sure. So through this program, through the connections, the people connections that the members of the cohort have made, they have created amazing connections between each other. We've had incredible connections between Americans and Israelis. We've had incredible connections between Americans and Americans, because once again, we are a 10 community. So they're meeting Jews from other parts of the Southeast United States. The program was able to expose the Israelis to the diversity of Judaism in America, which is something that they were floored by. They had no idea about what a presence Judaism has in our communities, and they learned a lot about the community structure and what the Jewish community does for the greater community in all the places that they visited. Interestingly enough, while the Hamidrasha course was designed to help them become more in tune with their Jewish identity, which it did, the overwhelming response that we heard was that being part of this group, being part of a larger group of young Jewish people, helped them, was more significant to them than exploring their own Jewish identity. They developed a stronger sense of Jewish identity just from being part of this particular group. And success-wise, like Maya said, the last 2 years we've had cohorts. We've had 10 Americans, 10 Israelis. This year, the third cohort, the word is spread. We have 20 Americans paired with 20 Israelis, and we're offering the trip to Israel in the spring for all 3 cohorts. So we'll have a nice large group heading to Israel in March for Purim, which once again we picked specifically because of the fun time of the holidays, for them to see Israel in that kind of setting. And once again, while we're there, we'll do leadership programming, but we'll also show them the vibrant Israel. And for some, this is their first time that they've ever been to Israel, and for some, it's not. But overwhelmingly, the program helped these young Jewish leaders make connections with each other, and those connections have trickled down into their own communities. We have members of some of our participants, in one particular in Israel, went on to put the seeds of a Reform congregation, to start a Reform congregation in Hadera. We've had members in some of our Southeast communities go on to sit on their board of trustees for their foundations and work on annual campaign, things like that. And even in my own community here in Jacksonville, the word spread so that participants are doing the recruiting. So it's taking the work off of us to recruit because they're recruiting each other. So overwhelmingly, we feel like this program has engaged Jewish leaders in all 11 of our communities, and it's brought our consortium closer. We used to say we were a consortium based on teachers and teens, and now this has become one of our signature programs that we can't imagine not having far into the future.
Okay. Thank you. Maya, do you have an additional question here?
No, someone asked about what we do with our alumni, so I think Jill started to ask that, but I think some of the participants in the program are active in various fields. We know one at least is started to take part in the campaign. He's a campaign chair in one of our communities.
There is one question here. When the Israelis come, how many communities did they visit in the U.S.?
So for the last 2 years, when they've come to the U.S., we take them to, we call it the pre-visit. So they go visit one other community, and then they go to a different community for the retreat. So in all, they visit 2 communities. We do it a little differently when we bring in educators. We send them in smaller delegations to 3 separate communities, but as a whole group, the 10 Israelis came, they went to one community before, and then they went to the community where the retreat was held.
Thank you. Thank you. So we actually saw the initial and the basic objective to generate a connection and involvement of these young adults to the region and to the community. And actually they were trying to make the partnership language accessible to them, and they promote and build the whole program that will enable them to be the next generation leaders in the Jewish world. And we saw 3 partnerships that approach the challenge of connecting the emerging leadership in the Jewish world, and managed to utilize the partnership as a platform for providing a solution for the needs they identified, and addressing both local needs in the partnership region and in the community abroad. Whatever the need was catalytic or means, our ability as partnership to involve the young adults offers numerous of opportunities and possibilities. And together we can map out the ways to do it. So thank you for your presentation, and thank you all the presenters. And I would like to invite Gidon Venor director of 248 program, to add some insights from his experience. גדעון, בבקשה.
תודה רבה and shalom everyone. So we are 248, a global network of Jewish doers. Some of you have already had the opportunity to get to know the network and the annual program. We are a pilot program which rests on the partnership infrastructure. And the annual program consists of ongoing online webinars, activities in the local community, a week in Israel, which is about to unfold this upcoming week for cohort 2, and a global summit week in North America, which will happen in May. The two needs that the 248 is geared to meet with regarding to the young adult scene in North America were voiced on this call very well. So I'll just mention them again, is to keep the alumni of young adult leadership programs engaged. And we heard an amazing example from Lindsay in West Palm Beach, having so many of them engaged on committees and institutions. I must say that speaking with many federations, that's an extremely good example. It's not the same in many others. The second need was to add the global perspective to their local experience. And Jill, you spoke strongly about the connection to Israel and what it does for your young adults. And of course, we know that in partnership. The three unique aspects of what we're trying to do in 248 related to what we've heard on today's call are the following. We've heard several examples today about 2 or 3 programs emerging from a cohort of 10 or 20 leaders. And naturally, these will be the 2 or 3 programs that you will showcase and we will all enjoy. In our case, we are trying to go to the simplest possible initiatives. So we won't be blown out by all of these initiatives, but we want every participant to have an initiative which is related to community building, which he or she can be proud of. And the deeper rationale behind this is not only that everyone will have an initiative, but that good initiatives will go global. So we want them to be easy to implement, easy to replicate. And we're pushing that as far as we can within the rationale and the practice of the program. So that's the first point. The second point is to have an ongoing component, which is supported by technology, by a resource center. So we have global webinars every 2 weeks and ongoing discussions that you can enter offline and add to. Even if you missed the webinar, you can view it later. Just as Ravit described regarding the P2G Knowledge Center, we're designing and we have a resource center which can also be opened up in the future to people who haven't been in the program. And the third and last aspect that we're developing is that we have a standard group model where federations and partnerships can join, but we also have a small community / individual participant model of joining. So consortiums with communities with only 1,500 people can also consider joining. We have individuals in our second cohort who are joining in that model from North America and from Europe. And recruitment for cohort 3, which will be launched in September 19, is open. So I look forward to interacting with any of you who wants to hear more about 248. תודה רבה.
תודה. Thank you very much, Gidon. And I have the honor and the pleasure to invite Andrea, the Director of Partnership Unit, to summarize and formally close the session. Andrea, בבקשה.
Thank you. First of all, Ravit, I want to thank you for facilitating this and doing all the preparations for this, our third Zoom call. And I want to thank all the presenters for doing really a great job. This was a fascinating, interesting, educational session for me, and I hope everybody else on the line. I'll tell you what really struck me in hearing all the presentations and conversation is that all 3 programs that were presented today were the result of process that took place in your communities, in understanding that this is a cohort that is not easy to engage. This is a cohort that we must engage because it is emerging leadership. And yet it took a process of listening to the community, identifying needs, and putting it together. And that's something that I heard in all 3, that it's an ongoing process. In other words, from year to year, always checking and seeing what worked and what didn't work, and seeing how we do the tweaks and improvements, what have you. Even as, you know, our first speaker said, even stopping in the mid-year and doing turnabout. I think all three communities, in addition to the people-to-people connections, if I look at it on the state side, meaning in the overseas communities, they truly are programs that are designed to build community, whether it's in a sense in a more traditional way of building community, meaning that the graduates serve on committees, what have you, whether it's finding a place within the Jewish community and giving a voice and empowering the queer community in Montreal. I have to tell you, I didn't know that we were allowed to use that word in English anymore. So it was fascinating for me to hear you folks in Montreal refer to the gay community as queer. So that was educational for me. But really building community, moving forward, strengthening community. And of course, what came across in all three is what we call the power of partnership, what somebody called magical, what somebody said that to stand the test of time. And that is the power of people-to-people programming. All of our programming has to meet needs. All of our programming should be about building development. But we know that the most important point is when Israelis and overseas Jews come together in a program of gova einaim, in an environment of mutuality, where each has what to learn from one another, each has what to give, each one has to discover something about themselves by engaging with the other. As Jews, that is our power, that is our magic, and I think, Jill, you said, and that is what stands the test of time. And I can hope that is what we will continue to do moving forward. I thank again all of the presenters for sharing your knowledge, your experience with us, and I would love to see all of the programming, that anything that is written, anything, if it's a curricula on any level, it is something that I would love to see myself and be able to post on the Knowledge Center that Dr. Ravit Ochayun is so diligent about doing. So thank you, and Shabbat Shalom to everybody.
Thank you. See you next year's session.
Shabbat Shalom.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.